Hey, hello everyone. Today is Monday, March 20th. This is Steve Chamberlain, your interim superintendent. I am privileged to be joined here with Victoria Parisi, who's the vice chair of the board, and was intimately and incredibly involved in the facility project. It's been a while since we've had a video. It's been a very, very busy few weeks. We thought we'd take advantage of the delay in voting to just get one more message out there about Article 12, about the facility project. Our goal is always to ensure that the voters of Amherst are well informed and have all the information they need to make a very important decision for the community. Victoria, can you just begin to talk very quickly about the journey, how we got to Article 12, how we got to this iteration of the building project?
Sure. So several years ago, we had a facility study that looked at all of our systems, and we noticed that the age of our buildings, the age of our systems, as well as the layout, were becoming an issue. But above all else, we were out of space. We were beginning to be out of space. And as the couple of years have progressed, we are increasingly out of space. So Article 12 really addresses that issue. It addresses the space for meetings and it addresses the space for student learning. So in the last several years, we've had a lot of different meetings. We've met as a facility committee, as a school board. We've also met with the Board of Selectmen, the Amherst Town Planning Board, and we've done a wetland study with an engineering firm to discuss the site and to make sure that the plans are feasible for the town. So here we are with warrant Article 12, which addresses all of those things at the elementary school and would provide a new elementary for preschool through 5th grade.
No, and I thank you, and I appreciate that the space is necessary, and I love, I've been here for the tail end, but I do believe, and I understand why the space is necessary. It's necessary, A, because we have portable classrooms that are end of life. It's also necessary, yes, in the community we do have full-day kindergarten. And full-day kindergarten, right, has impacted the space. And full-day kindergarten is a research evidence-based practice. It doubles the instructional time. And the Amherst board and I have had lots of discussions about instructional time. But the ability to double your instructional time at kindergarten is incredible. So yes, space is needed, without question. And do we think this is the best way to manage the space?
We really do. So we've looked at all different options in the last several years. One was to only fix the systems, which didn't address the space beyond using portables. One option was to renovate Clark, renovate Wilkins, and then add on an addition at Wilkins. And the difference in price for that option versus build new was less than 3%. So with a less than 3% difference, that's when the facilities committee and the board decided to go with build new.
I get it. And building a building for 20, 30, even 40 years, starting off with all new systems, I think is what's best for kids. One of the things that I learned about a couple weeks ago is that in the portables, there is no air circulation. The only air circulation that exists in the portables is if the windows are open. Now we have air purifiers to clean the air, but not circulation. So that is something that I was very surprised about, that we talk about air circulation about the building, but also we don't have air circulation in the portables. The goal here is to improve the experience for our staff, for our faculty, as well as our students. We've had lots of discussion with Ways and Means this year. I've been at lots of meetings with Ways and Means, and one of the questions that came up at one point is to talk about the educational benefits of this building. And this is a complicated question. In that when you take a building project on, you take it on because of life safety concerns, that we have those with HVAC, the systems, and you take it on because of space, and we have those because of full-day kindergarten, because of the programs, and because of the portables end of life. But so you don't immediately go to improving educational outcomes with a $54 million project.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that this project will not help improve outcomes. It's just not the case. And Kathleen Murphy and I spent a lot of time. And the phrase that I used in my previous video is that building right now is an absolute headwind to efficiency and functioning for an educational leader in Kathleen, as well as meeting services of kids. And as you tour, and lots of people have taken tours, so there's a couple of things that are just incredible to me. One of which is, and we'll make the best we can, is like the library, for example, is your grandfather's or great-grandfather's library. And library spaces have changed to increase literacy, increase access to, and make it more welcoming. And though Ms. Strauss is our wonderful librarian at Wilkins, and she's doing the best we can, but that's a space that will absolutely help increase outcomes when we design it specifically for literacy and what we know about modern day design and increasing literacy. but it's also our intervention space. Can you talk about just how the interventions are, and which is intervention is a fancy way of saying extra help.
Yep.
The kids in our schools need math extra help and literacy extra help. Can you talk about what you've seen and how that space doesn't adequately meet the needs of those kids?
Sure. So the first thing that I think is really important to talk about is when we say intervention space, it talks about helping students across the board. This isn't something that is only helping a small portion of students. This is helping general education students as well as special services. In this intervention space, what we have are things like speech language pathologist, we have reading help, math help, like you discussed. And all of those spaces, because we're out of classroom space, are actually sharing spaces. So in one classroom that's designed for, a class, let's say a second grade class, there are actually separate cubbies, maybe 4 to 5 in a classroom where a teacher is working with a small group trying to address the needs of those students. And it's loud, it's distracting, and it's not the best way to help those students get ahead. And if we know that students are already needing some intervention, then giving them a distractible environment probably isn't our best idea.
And this is how a design has changed over the last 20 years.
Absolutely.
We have formalized our extra help, our intervention process. We now have data. When we try to catch kids, if they're falling behind at all, we try and catch them early in a 3, 4, 5 week intervention. That's why, as Victoria, as you said, in and out. This is for all kids. And the space can support this evidence and research-based instructional practice. So we have, another thing is every time Kathleen has to create a meeting, it takes time to find space just for families. And one of the things that I'm concerned about at the elementary level is providing dignity and respect to families as they make very, very difficult decisions or understand very difficult, anxiety-filled situations about their children. I was one of those kids. I had that call. When the second grader called and I came in, when teachers talked about my son needing extra services. And,
Sure.
Right now, that meeting would take place behind the stage. So is that just the reason? No, these are all the benefits that we can be more respectful to families, we provide better intervention, more efficiency so Kathleen can be in classrooms more and support instruction. So there will be better outcomes. So there'll also be better health outcomes. Once we have a high-functioning HVAC system, don't you think we're going to have better health outcomes?
I do. It's something that we've talked about, especially in the last several years. But it's something that those portables that were put in about 20, 25 years ago. And that was discussed even when those portables were put in. When the town decided to go the portable route, it was discussed that this would be something that we needed to replace at some point. And we're finding that here we are at the end of life for the portables. But even you mentioned the HVAC system. When we just mention HVAC system, sometimes it doesn't, the details don't ring true to the community. But what happens is we have classrooms that are sometimes over 80 degrees and in a time when they shouldn't be. And we're not talking about July. We're talking about, September or May, June, over 80 degrees. Or we have classrooms that sometimes are really chilly, and that's also not a great environment. So an HVAC system does not mean that we're giving everyone, full air conditioning and that it's going to be a perfect 68 degrees throughout the day, throughout the year. But it does mean that there will be massive improvements to what we're at, also because those systems just are so old. And so by replacing the systems, you do gain some efficiencies.
No, we understand it's a significant project, but it's meeting the significant needs and long-term needs of our elementary youngsters. And also helps the middle school. Can you talk about how this program, how this project will help the middle school?
Yep, absolutely. So for many years here in Amherst, we've talked about the need to figure out where the 5th graders go. So the 5th graders right now are at the middle school. We have 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. And for several years, decades, we've talked about the fact that the middle school just doesn't have enough space for all of those students. So by bringing the 5th grade to a developmentally appropriate level of an elementary school will not only help those 5th graders developmentally, but it will also help the middle school have a little bit more elbow room. And with a little bit more elbow room, I think that there's a lot of educational and behavioral impacts to that.
No, I agree that by taking 20% or that 25% of the youngsters out of the middle school will get a bump in space, in flexibility, in storage, and similar impacts about efficiency in that building. And one other thing, school board member Jason White talked about at one of our events, I really appreciate that the longer we can keep youngsters in the elementary model, the more confidence and the more skills they build before they go to middle school. Yeah. So educationally, having a K through 5 and having those youngsters one more year of a much different type schedule where they can be more flexible and support literacy, I think is going to reap benefits for 6 through 12. So it really is the right design at the right time for both schools. And I really appreciate and admire the work of JFAC and the Amherst board getting this done. Anything, last comments, or can you let folks out there know where to find out information and who to contact and stuff like that?
Sure. I mean, first of all, it's really important to me to make sure that everyone understands that everyone individually on the Amherst School Board understands that this is a big ask. We understand that it is a huge impact, not only personally, but it's a huge impact to our community. So we really appreciate you taking the time to research, find out information, come out and ask us questions. There's a website, it's called jfac.sau39.org, and there is a plethora of information on that page. And we have 3 tours coming up of Clark and Wilkins. So both of those are open for tours on Wednesday from 3 to 4, and then on Saturday morning from 9 to 10. And then we're doing a tour that begins promptly at 9 a.m. on Monday morning with the administrators. And that will be a slightly different tour because that is during the school day.
Terrific. Hey, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching this video. The vote's on the 28th.
Yep.
And we appreciate it. And again, any questions, please reach out.
Yep. Amherst School Board will be there on the 28th. So come on over and ask us any questions. We're happy to answer anything. Thank you.